With us, the fearless attorney for both Michael Flynn and the president in his legal challenges, Sidney Powell. And as Sidney mentioned, they're talking about some class action suits to prevent the states prematurely certifying the election. And if you have some evidence of electoral fraud, you can go to Sidney's website, defendingtherepublic.org. It's well named, defendingtherepublic.org, because Sidney will be defending it when most everybody else has fled. If you have evidence of electoral fraud, particularly in these critical swing states, then do go to that website. Sidney, you said something incredible to me, because as odd as it is that these foreign-made machines, Canadian machines with Venezuelan algorithms, are now in 33.
Call them Venezuelan machines because that's essentially what they are.
Okay, that's
a number of different companies to do this, and yes, we have Venezuelan communists influenced by Cuban communists counting our votes and deciding how our election's going to come out. It's an absolute outrage. It should be being investigated by the highest of our intel investigators, preferably military, because it's a national security threat. And that's exactly why they've done this. And don't forget China's influence in all of it, too. There's Chinese parts in it and Chinese money and graft in Venezuela.
But you mentioned that it actually goes across the Atlantic to Barcelona, and I think you said somewhere else, before Frankfurt. So in other words, we've got the Germans and the Spaniards counting American votes too, which would be odd enough if you didn't already have the Canadians, the Venezuela. I mean, there's everybody but Americans
well, the Spaniards
involved.
Is actually those parts are actually controlled by the Venezuelans too. The counting centers over there are controlled by the Venezuelan money.
But what is you're a lawyer, and you know that in any law, even in any the most trivial lawsuit, chain of custody of the evidence is the most important thing. You know, that a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy of what might have been an original document 37 versions earlier is less persuasive as evidence than the real thing. So why do we have like a complete contempt of chain of custody here, where these votes are sent actually into foreign jurisdictions before they eventually return as hard numbers?
Right, and there are multiple means of how they alter it. They alter it to begin with by running the algorithm where they want to run it, but they can also alter it by trashing votes, adding votes, and then if they don't like it still then, they can change it again in Barcelona.
Right, so in other words, whatever shenanigans, to use the euphemism people seem to prefer, whatever shenanigans take place in a precinct in Michigan, if that's insufficient, they can change it yet again while the so-called vote is out of the country.
Right.
How?
The hand count in Georgia that they're pretending to do now, they're going to try to use that to promote the argument that the Dominion fraud software stuff is a hoax. That's baloney. They did all kinds of different things there that include kind of closing out Republican accounts and doing provisional ballots for people that then disappeared. And we've got to have access to the machines themselves to get the software and examine it. But we know there were, quote, glitches in Georgia too. And anytime there was a glitch like that, there was software probably uploaded that changed things. They can change it over the internet. It should never have had an internet connection. Patches were put in like the day before the election, and they were never certified. The machines aren't supposed to be touched for ages before the election. That's a violation of law by itself. I mean, but we also have, at least I've been told, that there are special concerns about the governor of Georgia and the Secretary of State having received some kind of personal benefit for rushing the purchase of the Dominion machines into the state.
You said something else interesting there, that they actually were connected to the internet. Because last time round, we were told, when there was all this stuff about the Russian collusion and all the rest of it, that voting machines are safe because voting machines are not online. They're machines, but they're not. But some guy sitting in Macedonia or St. Petersburg can't actually hack into it because it's not connected to the internet. You're saying that this time round there were machines connected to the internet.
These machines are so hackable, a 15-year-old could do it.
And does that mean that in the lawsuit you're asking a judge to actually let some kind of tech experts into the machines themselves to figure out what's been programmed there and what's going on in them?
That is definitely one of the things we need. I can't even tell you at this point whether it's in any of the existing lawsuits, but I've certainly encouraged people to put them in the ones that they filed.
And do you think, you said you thought it was definitely going to the Supreme Court. Everyone seems to think that John Roberts, the Chief Justice, has no appetite for this, and his whole thing is always to, as it were, diminish the significance to prevent the Supreme Court doing anything like overturning and being perceived to have overturned an election or whatever. Do you think, I mean, these seem to me to raise absolutely extraordinary issues where essentially foreign actors, we've been told for 4 years about foreign interference in American elections, and it turns out the entire US election is one great act of multi-foreigner interference. Is that big enough for him to, in a sense, not be able to turn down the case?
If that isn't big enough for him to take the case, he should be impeached.
There'd be a lot of people who'd support you on that. Thank you. You always you have that thing that really good lawyers have, which is a slight degree of inscrutability, Sidney, when you're being interviewed. Let me just ask you as a final question: do you feel optimistic that the truth is going to get out about this thing?
I feel very optimistic the truth is going to be, it will get out. Of course, everybody on the face of the earth now is trying to suppress it, including people in our own government. But I won't quit until it's out and, release the Kraken.
Well, indeed, release the Kraken. Well, God bless you, Sidney. And people can go to defendingtherepublic.org if they want to know more about this.
Yes. Thank you so much, Mark.
Thanks a lot, Sidney. It's always a pleasure. Even in